And I have a beautiful brother backstage who is going to give us some knowledge. No, you guys, no. So, hold on. We've got to do this properly. So what I want you to do is, all of the ladies that got that singing voice, I want them to scream. All of the men that got that scary voice, I want them to woo, 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 woo. And everybody stamp their hands and clap their feet and make some noise for Dr. Voice. What?
Man right there. It's a real black man right there. I'm gonna tell you, first of all, I gotta start off by humbly saying thank you all for coming out here. You know, it means so much to me that you took the time out of your schedule to come and hang out with a crazy radical Negro like myself. Because hanging out with me might get you in some trouble. But you know, I tell you what, my belief is that when you get to that point where white supremacists are irritated by your existence and by your presence, that means you're doing some damage. That means you're doing your job. That means you have succeeded. And one of the things that I fundamentally believe to the core of my heart is that it's extremely important for us to understand the role that we have in all of this. You see, when you run a race, as my brother Mark was talking about Margaret Thatcher pushing individualism, same thing happened in the United States. Everything's individualism, rugged individualism, and we know that don't work. Mm-hmm. You know, like they say, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. Yeah. Right? Well, a lot of us think that we're running this race individually, and not only are you less likely to win the race, but you can't run that far on your own because your life isn't that long. You're not here that long. If you were to look at the history of all mankind, we are just here for the blink of an eye, just for a second. And so when I thought about that, I said, okay, there's only so much I can do in this lifetime. There's only so many things I can accomplish on my own. What can I do that might give me the key to immortality? What can I do that might give me the chance to be connected and to be a part of this movement for the next 400 or 500 years? Because I'm going to tell you, when you go look at other communities, Arabs, Asians, whoever it is, they're making 100, 200, and 300-year plans for their communities. Where's our 200-year plan? So I thought about it. I said, well, how can I be a part of this? Because my life ain't going to last that long. And so what I realized is that in this race, we're not running a solo race. This is not a one-person race. It's a relay race. And so when I realized that, I said, wait a minute, okay, I don't have to win the race myself. Because it's intimidating, right? Because I mean, the white man got about 400-year head start. You know, he's done a whole lot of debaucherous things in order to get all this power. I don't know if I can catch him. I don't know if I can raise $10 billion to build up these giant, massive complexes that he owns all over the world. I don't know if I can do that. I don't think I can. It's very difficult. Maybe I can try, but it's going to be hard to do. But I said, you know, maybe instead of thinking that we have to save the entire world on our own individually, we just realize that because you're in a relay race and you're going to pass the baton on to the next person, your job is not to win the race by yourself. It's simply to run as fast as you can to put your teammates in a better position than they were when the race first started. Mm-hmm. Because most of your teammates in this race are not even born yet. See, we're not doing this for us. There's never going to be a day where we're going to wake up and just see the black community on top in every category. There'll never be a day where the sun will be shining on every part of the black community around the world and everything will be wonderful. It's not going to happen in your lifetime. But your goal, your job, is to simply make sure you run as fast as you can so you can pass the baton on to your children in a position that is better than the one you started off in. Because there are probably some great economic warriors in our family, in our community, who aren't being born yet, who are going to be born 50 years from now, 80 years from now, 100 years from now. And we got to give them a chance to win. You know, if you run on a relay race and you got Usain Bolt running the anchor leg, if you say, well, we're so far behind, I might as well not even run, well, it doesn't matter how fast he is. You're ruining his chance to ever win. So all you do is you run as fast as you can, you do what you can with what you got,
You strive for something greater, you push a little harder, and you just keep going. When I realized that, it took the pressure off. It took the pressure off. Because there's so much pressure. It ain't easy being black. You know, I understand why there are people that are scared to be black. You know, I was in Guyana for the last 3 or 4 weeks, and I had to get away from Donald Trump and all this other chaos. And I ain't joking when I say that. And I was in Guyana, and there was a brother who said to me, he said, you know, you have this thing called the Black Business School, and I think it's great, and you should bring that here because we need to learn financial literacy, and the black people here need to learn how to invest and build wealth and everything. I said, that's a great idea, man. Okay, sure. Let's talk about it. How do we make this happen? And he said, well, there's one problem. He said, you should probably take the word black out because that's going to scare people away. And so my response was, well, fuck you. And fuck the horse you rode in on, because I ain't going to be scared of being black. There should not be a stigma of being who you are. I mean, what's your alternative? I mean, I can try all day, but I ain't never gonna be nothing but a black man. I can't be a white man. I will never succeed at being a white man. If I try to become a white man, I will simply be a cheap substitute. And so this idea of being afraid of connecting with each other, this idea of being afraid of being who we are, that's a mental illness. That is a sickness. And from what I've been studying, within Black London, that mental illness is as thick as it is back home in Chicago, where I'm from. It's very thick. I've seen some black people here don't even know they black. Somebody got to send them a memo or something like, you know you ain't white. What's wrong with you? And so, in fact, that makes me think about this little incident that happened once I got off the plane. Anybody hear about that? Okay. All right. What am I supposed to say officially? I'm officially supposed to say that immigration has allowed me to stay just long enough to give the speech, and that I'm not being compensated, and that I'm going to have my black ass on the plane Sunday morning because they want me to get the fuck out. That's basically it. I got here, I landed. The lady started asking me a bunch of questions, and I thought that they were asking questions like just to make sure I wasn't a terrorist or a drug dealer or something like that. Now, my father's a police officer, and I respect good police officers. I do. I abide by the law. I wasn't raised to embarrass my family. So I answered all the questions, and she kept asking more and more questions, like, why are you here? What are you doing? And what's the name of the event? And I said the word black, and I said, oh God, should I have said the word black? And then that's when the white lady really started asking questions. Right? That's what she's really like. So what are you doing? What exactly is it? Tell me more. I need to know more. Like, you know, and I'm thinking, oh, why is she asking all these questions? Maybe she thinks I'm a drug dealer. You know, I was traveling with my companion, and she dresses like a hippie. She wears lots of different colors. So I said, oh, they probably think you got a pound of dope in your bag or something. So that's all right. Let's go sit down. So literally, they held us for 9 straight hours. 9 hours. Held us for 9 hours. Wasn't allowed to talk to anybody, wasn't allowed to get on my cell phone. I said something on Twitter, and I was threatened that, you know, because you said something on social media, there could be implications, and again, you know, my natural reaction to, you know, threats and things like that is fuck you. You're not going to intimidate me. You're just not. It's not going to happen. And so that was my experience. That was my introduction here. And so when I did my research. Now, mind you, here's what really led me, because I was thinking, well, maybe this is just something that happens. It was a technicality, it had to do with the immigration laws and things like that, and visas and stuff like that. But the problem to me was I did the research, and I found out that in that particular terminal in Heathrow, like maybe 30 or 40,000 people go through that terminal every day, through customs. But they only stop 6 of us. 6 out of 30, 40,000 people, you stop 6. And hold us for 9 straight hours. And so I couldn't help but feel it was political, especially when they're demanding that you get photographed and fingerprinted and everything else. And I said to my friend, I said, you know, I feel like I'm being who I am, I abide by the law. I've never broken the law, not in any way that's significant. You know, maybe jaywalking or something. I probably littered one time or something. But I said it's interesting that really black power, black intelligence really is criminalized. Louis Farrakhan, from the last I checked, Minister Farrakhan can't even step foot in the city of London. What is wrong with this man? I know this man. His house is around the corner from mine. Louis Farrakhan lives 2 blocks that way. Barack Obama lives 2 blocks that way. I have always wanted to go that way, and I go that way often. I've never wanted to go see Barack. Not that I hate him. I don't dislike him. I just don't know what exactly we would have to talk about. Because if I sit down and I really want to talk about what we can do for black people, Minister Farrakhan makes it very clear that black people come first. Black people must come first. And so if you want to know, so if you want to know my ideology on all of this, it's very, very basic. Black people must come first. You see, and the reason it's important to communicate that repeatedly is because you're not used to putting yourselves first. You're not used to seeing your political leaders put you first. You're not used to seeing anybody put you first. I know in the United States, you know, we've got a lot of black people, we vote for the same politicians, maybe Hillary Clinton or the Democratic Party or whatever, and they'll list all their agenda items, and they'll have 5 or 6 issues, so immigration and gay rights and blah, 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 they'll go down the list, and then there might be one little bottom, tiny little microscopic line that barely mentions black people. And so my enthusiasm is limited. When the Democrats run for office and they say, well, we need you to come and vote for us, I say, well, why? When I bring up my issues, you don't care. When I talk about reparations, you don't want to have that conversation, even though we're owed reparations. It's not a complex argument. There's nothing complicated about the fact that black people were enslaved for hundreds of years and that we're owed reparations. So why aren't you going to talk about that? Well, the thing is that they are accustomed to exploiting your low self-esteem. They are accustomed to the fact that because many of us don't know who we are, we'll jump onto anybody's bandwagon that happens to be rolling down the street. Anything's better than being black. Any community is better than our community.
Right.
We think that everything about being black must be negative, must be bad, must be in last place, and damn it, I'm sick of that shit, because I think black people need to be in first place. You start off by being first place in your mind, and then you become first place to the world. You must practice loving yourself and honoring your children and realizing that you are among the most gifted and most extraordinary group of people on this earth.
Right.
Think about it. I mean, seriously, I'm not making it up. Now, I'm not making this up. I mean, think about this. You survived the most brutal form of slavery in the history of all mankind. Nobody survived that. The Middle Passage, half the passengers died on the Middle Passage. Most of the people couldn't even make it across. Your ancestors were able to survive that. Your ancestors have been able to survive some of the worst treatment known to man, and you're still moving forward. Can't nobody else do that. Can't nobody else do that. So my belief is that the only thing that can really stop black people is black people. The only people who can slow us down are ourselves. We are the only ones who have the ability to stop our progress. It's all psychological. It must start with us understanding what our purpose is and what we are seeking to do as a community. Now, before I move forward, I want to make sure I thank everybody who brought me here. Thank you to Charmaine and Mark from BlackHistoryStudies.com. I appreciate you very much. And can you give them a round of applause for this?
I'm so impressed with what they do in the community. Their professionalism, their consistency, their depth of knowledge, their relevance to what we're trying to do. I can't think of anyone I know anywhere doing what they're doing at the level that they're doing it. Nowhere on earth, nowhere I've been anywhere in America or anywhere else where they're doing it at that same level. And they exemplify the greatness of black love when it works the right way. They exemplify black power in every single way, because knowledge is power. And I tell you what, Mark is a hell of a rapper. That song, Black History Studies, knowledge is our wealth. See, I know that over. I assume y'all know the song. Educating the community to educate themselves. It won't leave my head. It's still in my brain, and I literally sing that song all the time, every day. But anyway, I also want to say thank you to Iola C. Williams, my brother Dean Okai. I think he's in here somewhere. I don't see him. Yeah, Dean, who he fitted me up. He helped me. He really he dressed me up real nice, and I appreciate it. Now this isn't Dean's suit. This particular one, I happen to have a different one. He let me use the shoes, but for the weekend I'll be wearing your stuff, brother, because I love it. This brother has a lot of taste and a lot of style, and I respect him. And there's so many other wonderful people I've met here, and I have so much respect for Black London
And I talk about this a lot back at home with my friends. I tell them, I say, it's interesting to me. The people in Black London, when they get it, when they really get it, because you know how it is, you got the conscious Black folks and then unconscious. Forget about the unconscious, we worry about them later. When Black Londoners become conscious, there's a level of seriousness, a level of depth, a level of intelligence that you exhibit that I point out to my friends back at home and say, this is what we need. When I brought Dean onto my YouTube channel, Dean set it on fire. I said, okay, this is Malcolm, Martin, and Garvey, and everything else rolled up into one. And they were so impressed with this. And I said, this is the great stuff that they're doing over here in London. So you really are setting the pace. And what I also want to apologize for is the fact that while there is so much attention that Black Londoners give to what we do in America, Americans don't always return the favor. I think that there's an arrogance that Americans have that I'm really, really ashamed of. And one of the things I want to say to you is that as I have been in the city and I've really meditated on my experience here and the people that I've met, I want you to know that Black London is me. I am Black London as well. I am here with you. And I hope that you will be here with me when I go home. Because there is no divide, there is no sea between us, none of that. We got technology. There's no reason that we should see someone that's Black in London to be different from a Black person in Jamaica or in Africa or in the United States. No reason for that. That's divide and conquer. Every theory pretty much shows that the more you're divided, the weaker you become. And so ultimately, why is it at the end of the day that we see each other as being different? There is no difference. We're all Black people. We're all dealing with white supremacy. We're all affected by the very same system. So one of the very first things that we must do as a people is commit ourselves to remaining connected. Now, I'm not just saying that. I'm not just going to say this to you. I want to show this to you. First thing I want to do, since one of the stipulations of me coming over here through immigration was that we couldn't sell products and make any money. All the books that we bought, all the products we bought, everything we're selling, I'm donating it right now to Mark and Charmaine and BlackHistoryStudies.com. And I was listening to Mark and Charmaine talk, and I said, so what's owned here? What do Black people own in London? And they said, well, not much. They said, not very much. And so I said, okay, so we got to get a building. We, Black Londoners, need a building that is ours. When events like this happen, and you can fill it up to capacity every time, it shouldn't be a rented space. It should be a space that we own. So what I would like to do is, the donation that we've made, the money from the book sales, should go toward a fund that if you want to participate at a higher level, please feel free, but a fund that allows us to find a building. You find me a building, and I'm going to write a check, and we're going to get that damn building because we need to own something. Because at the end of the day, we can't just sit around talking. Knowledge is certainly the first level of power. We must educate and elevate our thinking as a community, no question about that. But at some point, there must be constructive action. There must be coalitions. There must be investment. There must be some sort of progress that we make toward having a stronghold. Strongholds come through ownership. So as we get this building, and I'll keep you guys posted. If you guys are subscribed or something like that, I'll keep you guys posted on how it goes and everything else. And I'm not just talking right now. I will follow through on every bit of this. I'm going to go right back home to the United States. I'm going to tell them what we're planning on doing here in London. I'll go through with my phone and show people what the building looks like when we finally pick something. I don't know what's available or where. I don't know anything about the real estate market here in London, but somebody here does. As smart as everybody is in this room, she's raising her hand right there, that sister is. There's so many people here, I'm sure, that know somebody who knows somebody who knows where we can find us a building and we can put a down payment on that sucker and buy that damn thing. And then at that point, you just keep moving. You keep moving, you keep investing, you keep flipping. Now this goes back to an idea that I want to share with you guys and I want you guys to kind of walk away with. If you don't remember anything that we talk about, I hope that you'll remember this. This is what I call the Black Core of Three. The Black Core of Three is a very simple layout, a very simple model that I created that would allow us to solve a large percentage of our problems in the Black community. The Black Core 3 is this. We must, 1, find ways to educate our own children. We cannot let other people, do not let your children be educated by their oppressor. Their oppressor will turn them into white people. That's what they do. They are coon, those schools, the public school systems here and in the US ain't nothing but coon factories, and they spit out black people who hate black people.
That's right.
Number two, we must learn to create our own jobs. Part of the reason that we can't build anything on our own is because our greatest investment of time, we spend about 100,000 hours of labor. Each of us donates 100,000 hours of hard labor to building and developing the same white supremacist institutions that oppress you. You might be proud of that job you got at the Bank of London or whatever it is, but damn it, what you're doing is you're adding fuel to their fire that's being used to burn down your own people. We must learn to create our own jobs. There are models for that. They're easily teachable. Every black child must know these things by the age of 12. Number three, we must support black businesses by any means necessary. We must make it part of our culture to buy black. That means when we get that building space, we hold marketplaces for black-owned businesses so you can come through and buy things and do business with other black people. You must come together and form partnerships because those partnerships protect you. So the three words to help you remember this: educate, create, support. Educate, create, support. Say it with me. Educate, create, support. Yes. Educate our own children, create our own jobs, support black businesses. Because what happens is, part of the reason that we struggle is, number one, they grab the minds of our children at an early age. They did that in America. They did that to the Native Americans. When they wanted the Native Americans to stop being so rebellious and to stop thinking for themselves, they said, well, let us have your children. And they took their children away and they would put them in these schools that trained them on Eurocentrism. And they dressed them like little white boys. They told them, if we ever catch you speaking your native language or dressing in your native clothing, you will be punished. And then what they did is they did exactly what they do to black people now. They took those kids, when they grew up, and they put them back in the village and they prop them up. They give them some money and some power so that other people would look up to them. Yeah. And that's exactly what we do as black people. We look up to the propped up Negroes that are put on TV because we say, oh, well, look at him. He's got money. He's got power. I want to be like him. And you don't even spend a second thinking about, well, why does he have that power? Who gave him that power? And why did they pick him instead of picking you? Why would they still want him to have that power if he represented black people? No, they probably would not. So ultimately, at the end of the day, you must educate your own children. You can't tell me that a black mother or father is not more qualified to educate a black baby than that crazy white woman who's yelling at your child every day. That was my experience. When I went to school back in the U.S., I grew up in Louisville, Kentucky. It was actually Muhammad Ali grew up in that same city. And it was so bad for him, he left and never came back. He never wanted to come back because they treated him so badly. And I went to school every day, and I was, constantly being punished by the teachers, constantly being yelled at, constantly being told that I wasn't smart, that I was a bad kid, that all these other things. And what happens is, if you label a child that way at an early age, they internalize that label. And then they start to behave in a way that is consistent with the part that you've put on them. You've given them a certain label, well, they say, well, I must be the bad kid, so they start acting that way. And then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. That basically means that because they believe that's who they are, they become that person. You say, see, I told you he was a bad kid. That was my trajectory. And so I look back on that and I say, well, what if I'd been raised in an environment where my teacher actually loved me, where my teacher actually cared about me? I probably would have been a better student. What if I was in an environment where being black was a good thing? Instead of teaching me that I had to peel away all my black skin and hope that one day I could try to fit in with somebody else, I would have probably been happier. I wouldn't have felt suicidal as a teenager. I would have felt like I had something to live for. I would have had something to look forward to. What if when I was a kid I had been taught, what if when I was a kid I had been taught basic things like how to start a business instead of going out and begging for a job? Yeah. My life would have been a lot different. Because I'm going to tell you, I thought at that time that the best way to succeed for me as a black man was to go to school, work hard, get good grades, and get a good job. I said, if I behave myself, that's it. It's always contingent on good behavior. You're always told you got to just keep your mouth shut and be a good boy and everything will work out. But that really still don't work. In the U.S., they still shooting you in the head, shooting black men in the head for nothing. They don't play over there. They're getting kind of crazy. But they're getting crazy here too, from what I understand. Yeah. And so what I did was I went to college. I had a baby when I was about 18. And in college, I was a very good student. I worked very, very hard because I knew I had this baby coming. I know two things I didn't want. One was I didn't want to be broke, And 2, I didn't want to be pimped. I didn't want to be told what to do. So I figured education was a way to do that. So I studied hard. I studied 6 or 7 hours a day. Most of my friends didn't do that. Most of my friends only studied, a couple hours every couple of days. And that didn't make any sense to me, because if I would go to my friends and I'd say, well, maybe we should study 5 or 6 or 7 hours a day in order to do well in school. So I studied the same number of hours that I would have spent working on my job. And so I wanted to get more education, so eventually I got a PhD and I started teaching at Syracuse University, and I thought everything was going to be okay. I was making a lot of money, over $100,000 a year. And I thought I made it. I thought, okay, now I'm safe. I did well. I'm going to be taken care of. White supremacy is going to love me, and all this stuff. And then I found out not too long into the process that I was still a nigga. I was just a highly educated nigga now. That's it. And every day I remember going to school or going to class to teach my students and feeling a tremendous amount of stress, a tremendous amount of animosity from colleagues who didn't understand me, dealing with a lot of problems that just didn't make any sense. And I remember being confused and thinking, wait, I try to be a good person. I'm not hurting anybody. I'm not doing anything wrong. But I'm still being treated this way. I still feel lost. I still feel as lost as I felt in the 3rd grade when I would go to school every day and deal with that crazy white lady. And so I realized at that point, what I figured out was, I said, I get it now. I understand this. Now remember, I'm technically a financial expert. I have a PhD in finance. So you would think I would have figured this out sooner, but maybe I'm a little bit slow. But I figured it out. I said, here's what they do. They control you with money. Most of the reasons that we can't stand up to white supremacists is because a white supremacist is paying your bills and feeding your children. We don't speak up to Massa because Massa is holding the keys to the bank account, right? So I remember saying, okay, so if I want to have true freedom, I got to have economic freedom. Right. Because if I ain't got no economic freedom, then every time the situation calls for me to stand up, they're going to be standing right there saying, sit your black ass right down. That's exactly what they're going to do. So that's when I said, okay, I need to go on a different journey. I need to cut out the middleman. So what they're doing, in our field, they have this thing called tenure. Anybody ever heard of tenure, the professors that get tenure and all that? Okay, tenure is like a promotion where you have a lifetime job and you get paid for the rest of your life. So it's like welfare for smart people, or something like that. It's just kind of this thing like this, like almost like this heaven that you get to go to if you behave and do what they tell you to do and all this other stuff. And I've just never been good at being well behaved. That's just not that doesn't work so well for me. So I kind of knew they were going to fire me anyway. I knew. I mean, they had never promoted a black person in 100 years in my entire department. Literally, not one single black person. I said, I probably won't be the first one. Y'all probably got some coon out there. You'll get the promotion. It won't be me. So I just kind of knew my days were numbered, right? So what I did was, I said, if I put as much energy and as much time into learning how to start my own business as I put into getting this PhD, then I might have a shot at freedom. I might have a shot at success. And so that's what I did. I would take my paychecks and I would invest my money in my new business. I lost a lot of money. I failed all the time. I failed miserably on a consistent basis. But I just kept going, kept learning, kept building, kept going, kept learning, kept building. I said, I'm not going to stop. And then I hit a point of no return. I hit a point where I knew that I was going to be blackballed anyway in my industry because of the racism. My mouth, I might have told y'all this, but when I was a little boy, my mother used to say, boy, your mouth will either make you great or get you killed. I'm curious to see which one. Because if something pisses me off, I can't not say it. I mean, I just got to tell the truth. I just believe in that. I ain't trying to go through life lying to everybody. That's to hell with that. So I would tell the truth, and it made things worse. I had to fill out these forms and file this report to try to get my tenure promotion, and I knew I wasn't going to get it, so I just wrote pretty much a manifesto, like, this is what's wrong with your university, and you guys need to check this racism because you blah, blah, and of course that ain't going to get you promoted, right? So I knew I was done. And then though, I told them, by this time I had a little bit of, I was in the media a little bit, I was going on CNN and stuff, and I said, okay, I get it now. The reason you can exploit black people and disrespect black people is because black people are scared of you. They're afraid of being blackballed. That's the thing. You get blackballed from an industry, that means no one else in the industry will hire you. It happens in Hollywood, it happens in universities. So if one white university doesn't like you, they think you're too radical, that means all of them, if you're public about it, none of them will hire you, right? So I pretty much said, okay, here's the situation we're in right now. What you're doing is wrong. And the media will call me, and you know how it is when a black person speaks, the first thing they do is start poking at you and start figuring out, like what's wrong with you. Maybe you're not qualified, maybe you're not good enough and stuff like that. So the reporters will call me and ask me questions, because I was speaking in the media about the racism and everything. And the reporters will call me and say, well, they're saying that you're not qualified because of this. And I know people have gotten promotions. I know I'm good at what I do. I know that. I was trained by some really good people, some of the best in the world. So I wasn't worried about that, but I said, here's what we can do. I want you to assume that I am completely unqualified for this promotion. I want you to assume that I'm lazy, that I'm stupid, and that I never did my job. So now that we've got that off the table, now I want you to go scrutinize this university the same way you're scrutinizing me. Mm-hmm. Now I want you to go look at their hiring record and ask them, why is it that 70% of your departments have never promoted a black person? Why is it that this department has gone 100 years in history and hasn't promoted anybody that's black? Why is it? Explain that. I said, because they're going to have a hard time. I can explain my track record or whatever. It's all arbitrary, and I'm confident with what I've got. But they can't explain that. And the only way they're able to get you to become self-conscious about what's wrong with you is because they can get the spotlight so much on you that nobody's pointing out their shit. Because these white folks ain't perfect. They ain't no better than you. Right. But you think that they're better than you because they got big fancy buildings and lots of money and all this other stuff. But at the end of the day, I think that we have to let go of the insecurities that cause us to be afraid to stand up and to actually compete. One of the biggest problems that we have as black people is that we somehow are afraid of the consequences of standing up for ourselves. When I'm in the U.S. and I talk to people about building a Black Wall Street, let's build some businesses and develop this and develop that. Every time I put something up, somebody comes. There's always inevitably what I call a Negro Naysayer. Now, a Negro Naysayer is a person who finds a problem for every solution. You come in, you say black people can do this, they'll say, well, black people can't do that because niggas can't do nothing, we can't stick together, we ain't got no money, and we too dumb. Whatever, okay. So the Negro Naysayers come along, and whenever I talk about, say something like, well, Doc, why should we build a Black Wall Street? I mean, they're all, because all they're going to do is come and burn it down, right? Because they burned down the original Black Wall Street, we know this. And I said, yeah, they probably will. But you build the shit anyway. You build it anyway. If they burn it down, you rebuild it again. Maybe this time you get some soldiers with guns to guard it. You do it. You keep going. You keep going. Right. Nobody in their right mind would ever think that you can't go out here and compete and not expect that those who are threatened by you are not going to retaliate. If I'm on the schoolyard and the bully beats me up every day and takes my lunch money, I can't be afraid to punch him because I don't want to sit there thinking, well, if I hit him, he's going to get mad and he's going to hit me hard. Yeah, he's going to hit you hard. But are you going to keep letting him punch you? No. Sometimes you have to walk into the competition knowing that there's going to be a response. So if you think that white supremacy and racism is going to get worse, the answer is it depends. If you do what you're supposed to do, and you step out and you compete and you fight, then you can bet your ass it's going to get worse. It's definitely going to get worse. Because they are threatened by powerful black people. I mean, let's just be clear. Let's be real. Genetically, you mix a white baby with a black baby, what do you get? A black baby. You don't get a white baby out of that, right? So even genetically, there's a fear of our power. Imagine when they watch sports and they see these big, strong black men and what they're capable of doing on the basketball court, the football field, and other sports, or whatever the case may be. That's got to be frightening. And then on top of that, we've got some of the most brilliant people in the world within our community. We are going to be a threat. Now here's the thing though, the reason that we're not as much of a threat as we should be is because they have been very successful at distracting you. They're very successful at controlling you psychologically. The psychological warfare starts at a very early age. If I can get you to believe that I'm better than you, that I'm stronger than you, then you will never even challenge me because you're too afraid of what might happen if you do. You don't even know your own strength. It's the same way a zookeeper or a circus, whatever circus actor trains a tiger or an elephant. What do they tell them? You got to let the tiger know that you're boss. Right? The tiger literally is doing what this little man is telling him to do, because somehow the tiger thinks that the little man is more powerful because of the way he asserts himself. Well, that's kind of what black people are. We really kind of bow to the Wizard of Oz. We bow to white supremacy because we think that somehow we don't have the ability to fight back. But I'm going to give you some secrets on how we can fight back and how we can become competitive. And I'm going to tell you what, when you really do this, and again, this is a line. If you cross this line, just understand that there's a point you get to that really does become the point of no return. There is no white company I can go to in America, and probably not even here, where I can go apply for a job. I know that. I am as unemployable as any black person on this earth. I am clearly not fit for slavery, so I better figure it out. But let me tell you this. My thought is, here's what my processing was. I had to go through this because I had a lot of scary nights. I had a lot of times thinking, man, ain't nobody understands what I'm doing. My family didn't support it. My family's not like me. Let me just say that. In fact, I strongly suspect both of my parents voted for Donald Trump. So that gives you an idea of what I'm dealing with when I go home. But it's okay. I love my parents. Love my dad, a strong black man, my mother, a wonderful woman. But they don't get me. I don't always get them, but I love them. And that's another thing we got to learn as black people. So just because somebody don't agree with you doesn't mean that you can't find common ground. I believe in looking for the bridge as opposed to looking for the divide. But what I figured out was, I remember thinking to myself that a lot of success and power in life comes down to culture and lifestyle. The lifestyle you choose. So what I realized is I said, okay, as I move forward in my life and I make decisions and as I solve problems, I can either solve my problems as a free black man or as a corporate slave. Now, how does a corporate slave solve an economic problem? Well, what a corporate slave does, and I'm not making fun of me. If you work for a corporation, don't think I'm making fun of you, but just know if you absorb too much of this, you might go out and lose your job, and I apologize in advance. But we'll have your back. We're gonna love you. We'll hook you up. We'll help you out. But just know, so just be, proceed with caution. But as a corporate slave, the way a corporate slave might solve an economic problem is they might go to their job and ask for a raise. They might try to get a promotion on their job. They might try to get a better job, maybe get a second job. That's how you solve the problem when you are on the corporate plantation. Now, the way a free black man or free black woman solves an economic problem is they say, well, okay, I've got my business. I need some money. I can cut costs. I can figure out a way to make more sales. I can make strategic partnerships. I can open up another line of business. I can do all these other things that will help me solve that problem. So the commitment that I made to myself was, I said, from this point on, freedom is not something that's going to happen in case if I'm successful or not successful. It wasn't something where I said, well, if I'm going to leave the corporate plantation, if things don't work out, I'm going to go back. No, I said I'm never going back. And what that meant is that I was going to try to solve every problem I had as a free black man. And when I dug deeper into that, what I learned is that that's not a unique concept. That's nothing new. There are families out there, and some of you may have come from families like this. There are families out there where their parents never once talked to them about ever having a regular or proper job. There are families where they never even talked about having a job, not once. They started the conversation about wealth by starting with the key pillars of wealth. The top three key pillars of wealth building are stock and bond investing, real estate, and business ownership. Stock and bond investing, real estate, and business ownership. That's where you start the conversation. And then if your child somehow decides they want to go get a job, they figure that out on their own. Now, what I found in my family growing up was that we started from the bottom up. You go to your parents and say, hey, daddy, how do I get more money? Well, you better go get you a job. That's what it was. Just go get you a job and you got to work. And I remember seeing people go to work and they come home looking like zombies, miserable. And I said, well, gosh, I don't want to live like that. And I remember, thinking about, I did the math and I calculated. I said, okay, 40 hours a week, 5 days a week, that's about, 40 hours a week, that times 50, that's 50 weeks in a year, that's 2,000 hours a year, and 2,000 times 10 over a 10-year period, that's 20,000 hours. I did the math, and I said, oh my God, you're spending 80 to 90,000 of hours of your life on this earth, your waking hours on this planet, on your job. And you're only awake, I think, between 25 and 65, you're only awake and alive about 240,000 hours. So you're spending about 40% of your life, dedicating 40% of your life, you're giving away 40% of your life to this company that doesn't give a damn about you. This company where you can literally give them 40 straight years of hard work, and you will die at your desk, and they will replace you in a week as if you were never there. I mean, let's just be real. And so I remember thinking about that, and I said, my goodness. So when I did the math again, I said, so we're trained. This is through industrialization. This is what the public school system does. This is planned. They train this to children. They train you in college. Most universities, they do not teach you how to run a business. They teach you how to work for somebody else. So they develop the schools to create people that fit into their system. That's what they do. So even in the U.S., we have HBCUs, historically black colleges and universities, and most of these schools are just feeder systems into the white supremacist economic system. That's how it's designed. So I said, does it make any sense, number one, that we send our children away to be educated by unqualified people who hate them? No, that doesn't make any sense, but we do it because everybody else does it. And does it make any sense that we spend more time with this corporation than we spend with our own children? More time than we spend with people that we love? More time than we spend having sex? There's nothing that you do in your life that I can think of that you spend more time doing than you spend at that corporation. You're married to that. You're married to white supremacy. Because don't think that your labor isn't worth billions and billions and billions of pounds every year to these corporations that don't respect you. That's why they pay you for your time, because they see value in your time and in your labor, but you don't see the value in your time and your labor. You don't see that. There are people I know back in the States, a lot of black men are unemployed. I know a lot of unemployed brothers, and they literally, if they don't have a job, will literally sit in front of the TV all day, every day, wasting all that time. So I'm sitting there thinking, what is wrong with you, man? Do you really think that your labor and your time, your free time has no value unless a white man offers you money for that time? Like, he's giving you all this free time now. That means he's giving you thousands of dollars, maybe millions of dollars. What are you doing with it? Well, in a way, when you don't have basic training in economic intelligence, financial literacy, and entrepreneurship, then effectively you're sitting there with all that free time and all that knowledge and all that skill, and you don't know what to do with it. You're like a person sitting there with a refrigerator full of frozen food, and because you don't know how to cook, you starve to death because you wait for somebody to show up and cook it for you. That's what's happening. All these companies that make money from your labor, all these companies that pay you, they pay you because if they're paying you, if they're paying you 1,000 pounds a week, they're making about 5,000 pounds a week off of your labor. What is the difference? Are we training our children as a fundamental rite of passage on how these economic systems work? Are we training them on how to build things, or are we training them to simply jump on bandwagons created by other people? The book I've been reading, because I'm not, just so you know, I'm a recovering coon. I kid you not. I kid you not. The coonery runs deep. It's in your DNA. You can't get it out your blood. It's a daily struggle. I kid you not. But I'm trying. I'm trying, y'all. I'll be in rehab until the day I die. But one of the things that I can say is that when you kind of look at this whole system, this whole game, one of the things that confuses me is that we tend to spend all of our time on all the wrong stuff. In the U.S., our biggest problem is we got all these black boys that become excellent basketball and football players. I mean, extraordinary athletes on the field. And 99%
of the best football players in the country never get a chance
to make a penny playing football. 99% of the best basketball players in the country never get a chance to make a penny playing basketball. So my idea was very basic. I said, okay, keep playing sports, whatever you like, just do it, keep doing it. Don't stop being who you are. But maybe if you put as much time into learning how to start businesses as you put into learning how to play a sport, then you'll have more success that way. You'll be better equipped as a man to be an adequate husband and father, because I don't care what anybody says. I don't believe that a strong black woman can really honor a black man who's bowing to a white man every day of the week. I don't believe that. Maybe I'm old-fashioned, but I just think that as men, we have to understand that it doesn't make any sense for you to spend your life begging another man to take care of your family. So, my thought is this. What are we preparing our children to become? Are we positioning them to be leaders, or are we positioning them to be followers? Are we positioning them to build, or are we positioning them to simply find a place to fit within pre-existing infrastructure that is not welcoming to black people in the first place? See, that discomfort that comes with being black, the closest thing I was able to find to help me escape some of that was when I learned to start my own business. I found that I was happier, I was healthier, I didn't go to work angry every day, I didn't have the same stress that is literally killing us. I met a brother one time who told me that the stress from his job was so bad that literally all the testosterone had literally left his body. He said I didn't have any testosterone. He said I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't perform for my wife. I was depressed all the time. And he said, but I got better. And I said, really? How'd you get better? And he went upstairs and he came down and he had a big box of pills. Like 30 different, 20, maybe it was like 15 or 20 different pills he had to take every day just to stay balanced. And he wasn't balanced. I mean, he was talking kind of fast and all this other. And I said, oh my God. Like, racism makes you insane. Racism will make you crazy. And I remember saying, I don't want to be like that. How do I escape this? So when you talk about your kids, ask yourself, what are you teaching your kids? Are you positioning them to be wealth builders and institution builders? Or are you positioning them to simply jump on bandwagons created by other people? I can't necessarily, again, I'm gonna allow us to have a Q&A here, so I'm going to cut it at this point. But what I want to say is that when I look in your eyes, and I'm here, and I know so many people, I had to come to London because I see a lot of you online all the time, and as I learn more, and I have my own experience, with dealing with the white supremacy I faced at that airport, I really connect with what you're dealing with here. And one of the things I truly believe has to be the first step in all of this is that we've got to come together. I really believe, and I can even show you equations that prove this. This is proven through economic theory. If we come together, we can do things that are so extraordinary that it will blow your mind. Yeah. The reason London became the first city in the Western Hemisphere to have over 1 million people in it is because London became incredibly wealthy because they had the river that came through and people came together to do trade with each other. Were it not for that river and for the trade and people coming together, the wealth never would have been created. Everything you see around you that's so beautiful and powerful and amazing was built because people came together. So what I want to ask you black people is, what do you think we can do if we come together? So every day you get up, your first thought has to be, how do we come together? When that other black person makes you mad, you got to say, okay, how do we come together? When you're struggling and you're scared and you're alone and you're not sure if your thing's going to work out, you say, how do we come together? That's why you're here. Because if we're together, there's no place I feel safer than in a room full of black people. I know the immigration crisis should great. I'm sure the immigration department sent a little spy in here, and maybe the Secret Service sent somebody over here too to see what's going on, because they always looking when we start getting together. That's fine, they can look. But I bet you that deep down, even that person is questioning whose side you're actually fighting for. So I ain't scared of you. You can follow me everywhere. We ain't breaking no laws. But at the end of the day, we are going to win this fight. Amen. So thank you very much.